That's a good one. I think new media is at a crossroads where we are no longer about technology, we're about culture. And that means we have to listen to those that create and lead culture. That can be artists, that can be academics, that can be those in government and politics and in the civic sector. But it is no longer the realm of those that know computer programming and those that know how to use the hardware the best. Like that moment is over, and technologists are going to be reluctant to let go of that. We are, those of us that know technology get very full of ourselves and say, oh, this means I'm a wizard, I'm an expert. The way they talk about technology is that like it's magic. But our responsibility now is to building a culture that is supportive of people expressing themselves, that's inclusive of those that don't have access to the latest technology, don't have the resources to spend a lot of time learning it. And so what we're faced with now in the world of new media is making sure we're creating environments that everybody can participate in, and making sure we're encouraging a culture of inclusion. And frankly, we haven't been that good at it. If you go and look around the world of new media right now, they will tell you that everybody has a $500 smartphone. And I can tell you that's not everybody, Or they'll tell you, oh, everybody knows how to use a web browser. Everybody has email. And those things are barely even true. They're common, certainly. And people that want to learn them have at least a way to learn them, but they don't know the potential of them yet. So I think the real innovations that are going to happen in new media are going to be about bringing that cutting edge, really broad set of tools that we have. The fanciest trick you could do in Photoshop, the most advanced video editing tool, bringing it down to a level that anybody can do it, and do it within their means, within the resources they have. Those are going to bring about the real revolution. So it's going to be access, not invention. And that is a huge cultural change for Silicon Valley, for the whole tech world, to think instead of what's new, what's really, truly broadly available. And people will unlock that. They'll figure that secret out, hopefully, and hopefully soon. I can't wait to see that happen. I think there's an enormous challenge in using today's technologies to reach the developing world, to reach rural communities in the U.S. And part of it is it requires cultural change from those developing the technologies. We don't realize the cultural assumptions we make. When we make what we think are features in software, we're actually defining culture. And there's a million examples of this. One I always point to is, for many years, Facebook had "it's complicated" as a relationship choice, how you could define your relationship with someone. And in most of the rest of the world, I think of, certainly any Islamic country, the idea that you would define your relationship with somebody as "it's complicated" would say a lot about you and that other person that maybe you don't want to say. Right? And so your software is reflecting a social value that is certainly not universal. And it's not universal within our own culture. There's a lot of people that would think it's anathema to build into your application the idea that, you might have random hookups with other people as a form of a relationship. And so when you make assumptions like that, you stop a technology from being useful in the developing world even before they've looked at what its utility is. Right from the beginning, you've said this is not for you, this is not your tool to use. And so those are the fundamental issues that have to be addressed. Is, are we assuming that these tools can be used appropriately? And I think then there's the logistical issues. The fact that the phone is a primary interface for what we think of as the web or the internet here in the US. For the rest of the world, it's happening on a handset. I think you have the issues of shared computers, right? We talk about one laptop per child and things like that, and I think it's much more likely one internet kiosk per village, or 1 hour slot at an internet cafe per week. Those are the ways that technology gets used in the rest of the world, if it gets used at all. And thinking about really rapid access for a few minutes a week because it costs a lot of money to use an internet cafe radically changes what you want an application to be able to do, what you want a technology to be able to do. So there's tremendous potential. I think there's people that have stars in their eyes right now about I'm going to use Twitter to deliver crop reports to someone in the developing world that's going to improve, their ability to go to market. I think those things are great. I hope they happen. But before we can even think about those things, we have to think about truly respecting and understanding the cultures that are going to be using these technologies and building for the assumptions and the social, constraints that they'll be using these technologies within. I do think we're at an inflection point about immediacy. The big triumph for me about blogging was the idea of permanence. That you would, they call it a permanent link. If you look at the bottom of a lot of blog posts, they'll say permalink, and it's permanent link for that information. The idea that I'm going to create information that will live on through time and get more valuable, hopefully, over time, is pretty important. And then the next step is immediacy. Like, can I do things in real time? And Twitter has taught a lot of people about this. To some degree, Facebook has taught people about this. Or going back 10 or 15 years ago, instant messaging took off and taught people about immediacy. I think it's still been fairly constrained. It's been hard to immediately publish to a large number of people, to immediately share context or content with a lot of people. And I think there's been a challenge as to filtering. If there's a constant flow of real-time information, how do you not get overwhelmed? And I look at, CNN, and there's 3 different things crawling across the screen and 2 people on screen yelling at each other and a logo up in the corner, and I think if this is what real-time means, this is overwhelming. So that's going to be, a challenge to solve the presentation of large amounts of information in real time. But that idea of immediately and easily being able to share with any number of people, that seems really exciting. That seems like that might be, if not the next big thing, then part of the next big thing.